This is episode number 57. In this episode, I'm having a conversation with Jaromir Zahradka.
We are building on the activities of INI Prague, which is a biotech incubator, which has been established like 4 years ago. And this is one of the daughter companies. At the end of the day, it's all these activities are driven by IOCB Prague, the public research institution, Simple Research Institute, who was successful with some drugs, HIV drugs.
Jaromir has more than 5 years of C-level executive experience in life science and was responsible for 8 biotech spin-offs. During his career, he built a unique network to institutions in Central Europe and tech transfer offices. He has collected a deep scientific and market experience in the field and done several licensing deals that sum up to more than $500 million in value. Jaromir was co-founder of INI Prague and recently founded INI Biotech, a life science fund dedicated to develop life science companies in the early stages, and he has raised over 40 million euros. In this episode, we talk about early stage investments in deep tech company, the complexity of spinning out technology from research organizations, and the venture capital situation in Europe. I hope you enjoy the conversation the same way I did. Enjoy the show. Welcome to a new episode of the Life Science Get Together podcast. Today with a very special guest from Prague, Jaromir Zahradka. Jaromir, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you very much, Christian, for the invitation. I'm really looking forward. It's really great to be here.
You're very welcome. Jaromir, one of my favorite topics in the last year, and also the reason why I founded Life Science Gets Together, is the European life science early stage ecosystem, which I found back in the time from 2006 to 2017 was pretty empty. And a McKinsey report that I read lately confirmed my impression, and they point out that in the last years, life science has a great scientific base in Europe, but lacks a few things like growth capital, or experts that are accelerating the process. And on the internet lately, I saw especially LinkedIn, I saw one of your latest successes. You closed a life science fund in Prague. Let's talk a little bit about your latest success, Jaromir.
Okay, so I'm really happy that you noted that you were successful with that. So actually, INI Biotech Fund, it's an investment fund which is focusing on early phase projects in life science field, drug discovery, diagnostics, medtech, and it's belonged to the funds which are backed by EIF, European Investment Fund, as one of the co-investors in the area of tech transfer funds. So this is a fund which belongs to the others, which has been established, let's say, associated to other very prestigious scientific institutions. So, for example, there is one fund in the KU11, there is one fund with the VIB. Max Planck is having its fund. So in this perspective, our mother institution, IOCB Prague, which is a research institution, somehow was entrusted by the EIF and the other co-investors, and this fund has been established to support early phase projects, which are mostly originating in academia based on the years of research. So INI Biotech Fund is an investment fund which is actually having now 45 millions in the very first closing, and which is investing in biotech projects in early phase.
That's really great. 45 million is enough money to play around with. What is your perfect target looking like? What are you looking for?
Yeah, the fund is looking for biotech projects which has having some uniqueness, some market potential, simply superior projects in the field of drug discovery, diagnostics, medtech, life science platform technologies, chemistry, and other fields, which are searching for either investor in a seed phase or Series A, who are searching for investor or co-investor. We can offer a ticket up to 2 million euros in the very first round. We can go higher if it's successful in our point of view. And we are simply selecting the best of the best projects from all around Europe. So we are open for projects coming from the Central Europe, which is the most important area for us, from Czech Republic and the other countries, as well as projects coming from the rest of the Europe. Moreover, we can invest a small part of our capital as well outside of Europe. So we are in touch with US-based projects where we can invest as well.
That's good to hear. If a nice audience that is also located in the United States, so also these founders can reach out to you, and it's possible to do that. Jaromir, lately I spoke a lot with founders about founding life science companies, and very rarely about the background of raising a life science fund. I'm very curious to hear more about how you did it. How was it to start a life science fund?
Actually, I&I Bio as a fund hasn't been started on like a greenfield. There was really something before, and it's still here. So we are building on, and we are successors of many, let's say, successful activities here in Czech Republic, here in Prague. We are building on the activities of I&I Prague, which is a biotech incubator, which has been established like 4 years ago. And this is one of the daughter companies. At the end of the day, it's all these activities are driven by IOCB Prague, the public research institution, Simple Research Institute, who was successful with some drugs, HIV drugs marketing. So we are simply building. We are building on the activities of I&I Prague, which is a biotech incubator, which has been established like 4 years ago. And this is one of the daughter companies. At the end of the day, it's all these activities are driven by IOCB Prague, the public research institution, Simple Research Institute, who was successful with some drugs, HIV drugs, first investments. So it's kind of evolution. On the background, there is a top-level research. It's a public research institution which is making very good science, publishing into papers, which was very lucky and very successful in application and commercialization of the results. There is as well very unique tech transfer office here, IOCB Tech, and then a biotech incubator as a third part of the ecosystem. And this ecosystem was able to convince investors to start a fund. So it's like evolution, which makes sense. So currently we have much more money which could be used in the ecosystem, which can help the ecosystem to let grow and attract other investors and attract the most ambitious projects from all around Europe.
That's great. That's great to hear. I know the fundraising process very well from companies, and sometimes it can be a very, very long process. It depends always on the time, what's going on the market, whether the science is hot right now or comes to fruition later on, and also to the relations to investors. I always wondered, how is it to raise a fund? What's not so much the great science and the great ecosystem, but the hardcore process behind it. Because you mentioned right now, yeah, we have a great life science ecosystem in Prague. And it sounded to me like I just need to pick up the phone and call the AEF and say, okay, guys, we have a great ecosystem, transfer the money, and in a week the deal is done and they are happy to do so. How long does it take, and how hard is it really to raise such a fund?
So you're right. It's not so easy, and it took many months and years actually before we were able to receive approval from the European Investment Fund. So it was really demanding. And actually, when the I&I Prague Biotech Incubator has been established in 2017, so even before we started first discussions with other investors or possible co-investors, including the EIF. And actually, that was one of the most important goals of I&I Prague, to attract further co-investors to invest in a biotech field here in Prague, because there is really good background for that. There is a really good research and a lot of projects which are making sense to be invested. And actually, we started the incubator with the idea that at the end, we should be able to attract further investors and co-investors to join. And actually, the story with the EIF was very long, and we started first discussions, real discussions with the, let's say, first real plans. I think it was in 2018-19, and since that time, we simply searched together how this could make sense together. Mm-hmm. And if we can really attract good projects, and if we have a sufficient pool of projects, and we were able to convince EIF that it makes sense. And this is not by chance that we are actually very first such a fund of this kind in former eastern part of Europe. So these investment activities are already established and already working in like Western Europe. However, if it is something new, and it was not easy to find understanding of all the parties around, of let's say scientists, all the members of the ecosystem, scientists, companies, investors, and EIF to find a way how this can be established and how the new fund could be beneficial for all of them. So this was really a long story, and we changed team meanwhile, and many things happened. Many startups has been invested only by INI Prague meanwhile. So it was quite a long story. However, yeah, it's not easy to somehow find understanding between such a different groups like scientists, tech transfer people, investors, and companies. And simply this was the goal, to find real understanding and set up the fund, which will be somehow giving a lot of benefits to startups, and will find a way as well how the startups will be then exited and will continue in their journeys.
Great work. Congratulations. Great work. So you pushed through 3 years of hard work, negotiations, trying to educate people to find common grounds, mutual understanding, why it makes sense to place a fund in Prague, and why it makes also sense to strengthen the ecosystem in Central Europe, which is not a given. And then you moved forward. It reminded me of a conversation I had with Walter Stockinger half a year ago, also on the podcast. At one point, people like myself very often like to forget that also an investment fund is nothing else like a company with people working in it and a team. Tell me a little bit more about your organization. Are you, let's say, I exaggerate a little bit, are you the only person at the fund who is working 24/7, or do you have a great team in the background that is running the business with you?
Actually, yeah, of course, it's not just me. There are a lot of excellent colleagues in my team. Actually, we started INI Prague as the incubator 4.5 years ago in just a team of 2 people. Nowadays, there are 5 full-time people who are working for the fund. And during the discussion with the investors, including EIF, we simply find further team members, partners for the fund. So our expertise was broadened with the other expertise of like fund management and more from a finance world. So nowadays we have like team of 12 people. All of them are very experienced, and let's say the technical part of a team, INI Prague Biotech Incubator, who will help the fund to select the best of the best projects. So that incubator consists of well-educated people in life sciences, which are having years of experience in out-licensing and commercialization and the spinning off companies. So with this respect, the team is providing us the expertise that we can work as a smart money investor. So thanks to the team, and thanks to the background of our mother institution and the tech transfer office, IOCB Tech, we can go deep into technology, and we can really go deep in the research behind, and pick something which is unique, something which has a good chance to be successful. So there is, back to the question, so there is a team of around 10 to 12 people. We are still hiring, and there is another broader network of experts and partners who can help us with the expertise, which is not in-house now. So we have in fact, very broad team, and our operations are therefore supported by the expertise of many smart and well-educated people.
Let's shine a little light on the ecosystem in Prague. You mentioned a few organizations already, and let's give a little bit more insight into these organizations for the listeners, that they really understand what's going on in Prague and in what, let's say, nice field of expertise they can tap into. You mentioned one organization that I find very interesting. It's called IOCB. Can you give a little bit of background to IOCB?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the IOCB is the Institute for Organic Chemistry and Biochemistry. So it's one of the institutes of Czech Academy of Science. Simply, this is like 4 buildings here in Prague, where around 700 scientists are employed, and they are doing their basic research on the top quality level. They are delivering a lot of nice results, which are then published in the prestigious journals. However, the institute is somehow oriented towards small molecules, medicinal chemistry, and drug discovery. And it was a very successful story. It happened here 25 years, 30 years ago here in Prague, when Professor Antonín Holý started his story of antiviral drugs, which in collaboration with KU Leuven, it has been at the end of the day out-licensed to Gilead. And this is the story of tenofovir, one of the most successful drug against HIV. Nowadays, there is a new generation of the drug on the market in multiple combinations. So thanks to this story, the Institute is now receiving around $100 million per year in royalties, which is really an exceptional story. And
congratulations.
Yeah, and we are so lucky that we can build on this. And this institute started to think about more professional tech transfer more than 10 years ago, and established its own tech transfer office, IOCB Tech, under management of Professor Martin Fusek, who is one of the smartest person and one of the biggest expert in tech transfer.
Absolutely.
And thanks to his work, I was for more than 4 years one of his team member. And thanks to the work of his team, they were able to develop quite impressive portfolio of further projects within the IOCB, which in total are like 25 projects. And many of them have been already out licensed, and many of them are already producing first revenues, and will and this is kind of reinvestment of those money, which should help the institute to have such an income for future years. Side of this, the institute is supporting young scientists, opening new positions, like incoming grants, something like EMBO installations. They are financing such kind of grants, something like that, for talented young scientists from all around the world. So they are really focusing on excellent science. They are willing to grow to be one of the best institutes in Europe. They are collaborating with many prestigious institutions in Europe, in Israel, in the United States, and simply they are growing in the scientific expertise and in the quality of research. And the tech transfer office is doing their job, and they are successful in out licensing and as well spin-off formation and simply commercialization. And based on this background, we decided to establish in May 2017 INI Prague, a biotech incubator. And the idea was that this should be a successor of the knowledge which has been generated at IOCB and IOCB Tech And those two guys are still trying to be better and better in the research and the tech transfer. And we as incubator are somehow trying to provide this knowledge and this momentum to show that this really works, that it's possible, that you can really produce something and commercialize good projects. So INI Prague has been somehow opened this capacity and this know-how and this expertise to the other projects from all around the Czech Republic, and later as well to the other projects from other countries. So thanks to this background, we have a good network, we have good credit, and we started to work in 2017. We started to participate in the first startups and support first licensing deals for the other institutions. So this is kind of evolution. As I mentioned, INI Prague, at the very beginning, there was an idea that there is no venture capital available in the Central Europe for biotech, or almost no venture capital available for specifically for biotech. There are some players, of course, here around, but the mainstream is somewhere else in venture capital, like AI or ICT or other fields. However, there is a good opportunity here to have a venture capital. That the projects are here, ideas are here, and at that time we already understood that technologies invented here are not worse than inventions which are coming from other part of Europe, from Western Europe, from US or other institutions, because once there is a top level of research at the institution, then you can provide a top level of innovation at the end. It takes more time to start all the tech transfer activities, and maybe you have not so good support as in Austria or Germany or in US, but the quality of ideas is similar in principle. So that was one of the reasons why the INI Prague has been established. And we started as a small team of 2 people with a little budget. And nowadays, the incubator is having equity position in 10 startups, including one.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. One in the United States, 2 in Germany, 1 in France, and the rest in Czech Republic. And we already received more than I think it's like 180 relevant biotech projects to be evaluated. And from this pool, which is still growing, we selected the best of the best, and some of them we support in licensing. Some of them we support as a co-investors or some advisor. So this is the evolution of the INI Prague. So we enlarged the team. We started with education activities. We started further networking and partnering with companies. We initiated several original projects that the ideas how the technology can be used, or application of platform technologies were implemented and were successfully out-licensed, for example. So we are really going step by step to open this Central Europe space for foreign investors, for West European investors or US-based investors. And one of those steps is the INI Biotech Fund. So we would like to show that it really makes sense to look in this region. We found out, for example, that this kind of fund is attractive as well for German startups and for Austrian startups, because we are really based on scientific knowledge. So we can act as a smart money investor. We are well connected with companies. What we are doing very often is like early testing or early partnering. So we can do some independent testing of technologies, which, for example, not so focused funds in Germany are not able to do so much. We can speak with our colleagues here, and they can do independent testing of a technology, which happened already several times. So we found out that we have something to offer for the whole region. Not only Central and Eastern Europe, but we can be a good partner for French projects, from Italy, from German projects, and Austrian projects. And thanks to our mother institutions, the institute and IOCB Tech, the Tech Transfer Office, we are in pretty good touch with very good research. We have good access to network of contacts. We are developing our network of contacts, so we can somehow use all this what has been developed here for our projects. And this is maybe attractive for many of them. So in principle, just to mention, we are not scouting now so much actively for new projects because they are coming to us. Thanks to our partners, we are collaborating with other funds, with other incubators, and I think more and more partners understand that we have a good background. And based on this network and on this ecosystem, we started now the fund as a way how we can invest more and how we can decrease the risk for the other investors. So simply, we are co-investing in syndicates with investors who are not so experienced in biotech. We are discussing with the other investors who are willing to enter the biotech field, so they can join our fund as a co-investor, or they can co-invest with us. They can request some kind of analysis of their project they are willing to invest. So simply nowadays we have INI Prague as a knowledge base. It's simply a knowledge hub for biotech projects. We have a good expertise, broad network. We have academic labs here, clinical laboratory offices of experts, and we can deliver something to the other investors who are willing to get some answers about their project. We can help the projects to be better. We can help with staffing of a project. We are used to search for managers for our startups. We can help to universities or tech transfer offices who are not so experienced with negotiations, with valuation of a project. We can support their activities based on some contract. And of course, we can, thanks to the fund, we can invest significant amounts to early phase startups where it's really needed, where just a limited number of investors really understands what's going on there, and where is the potential of some, I don't know, drug candidate or some technology for diagnostics. So we can a bit better understand scientists and managers of such spin-offs, and we can help them as well to identify a best way how to go to the market, or help them to decide for some indication which makes sense in our point of view, etc. So nowadays, really, we have, based on our background of the IOCB Prague and IOCB Tech, and our work, like 4 years of work in INI Prague, we can offer something to many partners. So this is really a knowledge hub, and then the fund, which is just a source of money for the best of the best projects which can be invested.
It's great to hear. What I always found exceptional around the IOCB is the strong links globally, internationally, in two areas. One is not very surprising, it's the science. I hope I remember it right, but at the IOCB, 700 chemists are doing research every day around. So correct me if I'm wrong. And
let's say, sorry, just to correct you, there are not only chemists, there are biochemists there. There are as well a computational chemist, experts in drug design. So it's not so, it's really complex system to support early phase drug discovery projects, really from the very beginning, computational chemistry, then biochemistry, chemistry, analytical chemistry. There are many disciplines at the IOCB Prague, and a lot of them are on the very top level of quality.
That's true. And it's not very surprising that those scientists who are really publishing in the world's best journals and magazines, that they create connections globally all over the world. But what I was very impressed are also the business side, the business mindset of the directors at the IOCB. sorry, at the business mindset from the directors at the IOCB that created global business connections based on an understanding of the translation from science into products, which I personally think it's very complicated. Let's talk a little bit about the how the European ecosystem evolved in the last years with the IOCB example. You mentioned that one of the first steps to facilitate the transfer from science into products was founding IOCB Tech, which is the tech transfer office. Coming from the in-licensing side, I find it very convenient when an organization, a research organization, has a tech transfer office, because what I learned with organizations that they didn't have that it's very challenging to find a common ground to discuss business terms, because the interests are so different. My question to you is, am I the only one that sees the complexity in the field of tech transfer, or did you make similar experiences? Did it make sense to professionalize the let's say the transfer from science into businesses?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so maybe it's good to mention that there was some kind of evolution at the IOCB Prague as well, and a business thinking of the institute in total somehow evolved here. And let's say that thanks to especially Martin Fusek and Zdeněk Hostomský, current director at the institute, they decided to make it even and previous director as well, to make it really professional tech transfer office. So it was somehow a unique model in Czech Republic. So they inspired the days and later as well by the examples from other countries, from Germany, from Israel, from the United States, how this could be done. And they decided to establish a daughter company, like fully owned company, as a tech transfer office, which is a model which is known from other countries, but it was the first time in Czech Republic. And this was a very good decision, because then all the operations must be somehow driven by the business thinking, because the company is a business entity. It's for-profit company owned by the non-profit, which is something which is well known in Europe. However, this is a way how things could be done more effectively, and as well with the support of Academy of Science, of the mother of the all institutes. They established this as a first pioneering tech transfer office with this setup. Nowadays, other institutions are joining, actually, trying to do this as well. Especially universities are trying to do this thing to support spinning of spin-off companies and support tech transfer activities with the business thinking. And in principle, this, let's say, that time when this has been designed, and then it evolved during the years, we found out that there is not such a big critical mass of projects as it is in other countries. Or if you collect projects from broader or bigger region, it makes sense to really build a huge portfolio of a lot of projects, and you are building really a critical mass of projects. And I'm not sure if this really works, actually, because then you have a lot of projects, and just a small part of them are out-licensed or commercialized. However, thanks to Martin Fusek, that time, like 10 years ago, they decided to invest more energy in projects which are pre-selected. So to select just not as big mass of the projects, but small mass of projects which are pre-selected, which will have a better support, which means that then tech transfer people, our colleagues at the IOCB Tech, that time I was there employed as well. So we simply participated on the project management of the projects, and we somehow participated on the success of the projects as well, which mean that there were these projects were driven with, by those people in collaboration with scientists. So it's a way how the tech transfer is not only providing expertise, but as well helping with management. So introducing simple techniques of project management in a scientific project, and slowly changing the management of a project to be more effective, more straightforward, and more targeted. So IOCB Tech established, and IOCB Prague, they started something so-called like targeted research groups, and later smaller groups like SWOT teams, like something which is for a short period, focusing only on let's say commercial side of a project, and developing further results and further outcomes of the project towards the goal of commercialization at the end. So this is a way how the portfolio has been built up. So smartly select the project and then invest a bit more than just expertise and then just network as well. It's good to invest as well a work of the people, and somehow find a way how to work with the original group, with scientists, and support the team with further experts, with further people. And this model where tech transfer people are highly active in the project is something which is not so common in other countries as well. So it's kind of unique approach, because we found out that the critical mass is just the critical mass is not really something what could work here. And this is the business thinking there. So every project should be somehow driven based on the value. So simply you are following development of a project by adding other value. So if you see there is a need of some de-risking experiments, you can do some cheap de-risking experiments to get a huge value, because you have much more solid data package.
It's true.
So this is just an example. So if you feel that the weakest point of a project is that you don't have a project manager, or you don't have future CEO of a project, you have to find such a person and somehow help the person to work for the project in like pre-seed or early phase, and then the value of a project is growing. So
you pointed a very, very important concept or problem in the area that also McKinsey highlighted. I like the approach that you and your colleagues have chosen at the IOCP to integrate business thinking. And I think one point that should be demystified is what's business. So science is one thing, and I think the success metrics in science are basically creating new know-how and knowledge and also publications. But the business function is simply turning scientific results into products that help people, and in the end of the day, create return streams, cash streams to the scientists, so that they can create the next generation of great scientific results. And you highlighted that in the beginning of the speech. And I think it's a great idea. It's very well set up to integrate this business mindset very early in the process, where scientists get help to understand whether their science qualifies for a product, which kind of product, and how the future strategy should look like. Like it can be out-licensing, it can be turning it into a startup, and then the personality of the scientists play a role. So I met scientists in my career who said, I'm done with science. I want to develop my invention further and want to make sure that it really gets to the patient and to people and create something lasting. And then there were other scientists who said, I like the idea that my science helps people, but I don't feel that I'm the right person in a company. So the question to you is, and McKinsey highlighted it, they said in Europe, it's very challenging to find the right talent who understand or who understand the process to turn science into businesses and scale it up. What experiences did you make in the last years in the European ecosystem? Is there really such a huge difference between the US-based ecosystem, or is McKinsey just exaggerating?
Yeah, it's not easy to compare United States and Europe, and especially like Central Europe. Here, the mindset and the thinking of people is really different. And I feel that it's really different if you compare Germany and Austria and Czech Republic and Poland and Slovakia and Hungary. So each country is really different approach and understanding what I mean really commercial thinking and what is expected from scientists, etc. So in principle, I think it's important to first to think about a role of scientists and how they are getting to their positions. So as a scientist, you are following I worked there for 6 years. So if you are following the career, then after several postdocs, you should do something really and compete really heavily with the others to have your own group and or to become a professor at the university. So it's really demanding and it takes time. And after such a long investment, it's really hard to imagine that you will somehow waste everything and start in a startup, to work for a startup, which is not very certain. So it means that this is, in my point of view, that it's important to search for other people than just professors or PIs or group leaders who in Europe, I think it's not very common that they can become or start their own business because it's not easy to stay in the position at the university and have a spin-off company together as one person, because it's really demanding and it's just for exceptional talented people. However, in the mainstream, it's important to build up a community of people who are somehow interested in this field. Of course, very talented people who were able to find a way how to work on both sides, like science and business. Those people are usually very evaluated by the companies, and it's not easy to find such a people and convince to work in a startup. So our idea is to simply help young scientists to find this field as an interesting alternative after the scientific career. So if those people are not satisfied anymore with working in science, postdocs who are coming back from prestigious universities who were not able to find their own position for their own lab, for example, or who are willing to do something more on the business side, so they can be trained and start their own spin-off company. It could be based on the idea of somebody else. So you have a technical team, scientific team, which must be still behind advisors, original authors or originators of the ideas. However, the management team could be built de novo. And the same works for the tech transfer people. So my answer here is that it's important to somehow attract the attention of a talented scientists who are willing to leave science, not to start in the sales positions in companies. However, think about starting of spin-off companies or work for spin-off companies. And according to my experience, people who are so excellent that they are able to be successful and get a good position in postdoc position abroad and prestigious institutes. So those people are able to be trained, and they have a good capacity to be good managers, because they already proved that they are exceptional and that they can really do something better than the others. So it's not for everybody. It's really something for very talented people who are really willing to do something. And I have to say that it's very, very satisfying job at the end. So most of scientists are not sure if it's really possible, if this is really possible to take some idea and to convert it into product which will be delivered to the patient. However, once this happened, or as soon after the license is sold or licensed out, or a spin-off company is established, and you see the first prototypes, then you can see how satisfying this is for scientists, because
Absolutely.
then it's getting some higher sense, and you as a scientist see that your work can be turned in a product and can really help people. And this is of course satisfying for me, that why I decided to work in this field, and I see that this is a really good way how people who are trained in science, who are willing to do something more, let's say, business oriented, something which is more practical, where you can see the outcomes, then there is a good idea to think about to work for some spin-off.
I completely agree to what you said. I think working in the field of translating science into business is very satisfying for all people involved. I mean, especially for the scientists. I mean, what is better in one's life than seeing that an invention a person made really helps people at scale and makes their lives better? I think it's one of the best things. You mentioned in the last minute something that I find very interesting and would like to elaborate a little bit more and go deeper into that. You said that in startups, mostly you need people that are coming from the industry, but it's very difficult to motivate them to go into a startup area. And on the contrary, on the other hand, we have the scientists, which in my opinion are trained naturally in the right mindset to become also great entrepreneurs. I mean, when you look at science, it's find a problem, define the problem, form a hypothesis, make some experiments, remodel your hypothesis, find new problems, and find solutions and solve it and do it at scale. And pretty much the same happens in companies. So no wonder that people, I think, like Elon Musk, who also have a little bit of scientific background, make great entrepreneurs. The thing is, which I found very difficult, is that I see two clear mindsets in that process. So one is science, and science with all its creativity, and it's really great. And on the other hand, I see the industry, which in my opinion is a completely different mindset. It's very structured, very focused, very goal-oriented. And when I contrast it with science, science is creative. Scientists need to be creative. They need to find new solutions. So pressing science in the process is really difficult because it contradicts how science should work and how people should find solutions. And they don't come out of processes. They come out of creativity, which doesn't work in the industry. And then we have this middle ground. We have this ground in between science and between industry, which needs personalities that understand both worlds. And this is exactly what McKinsey is criticizing in Europe. They say in the translation, there are not enough people who really understand both worlds. How do you see that? Do you, let's say, agree to that point of McKinsey, or do you see it differently with your experience based in Europe?
I think, of course, the statement that there is not enough people with this double expertise, or somebody who really understands a bigger picture of such a project. But I don't think this is something which cannot be changed. Let's say back to the people who are coming from industry. If you work for a bigger corporate, you are usually hired for some very specific expertise, or some very specific small piece of expertise, and there are not so many people who really understand the complex process. Despite they are coming from industry, they are focused on some field, and it's kind of demanding really to start your own company, and it's again a step out of a comfort zone of those people. Similar to the scientist, it's something completely new, and you mentioned that for science there is this let's say a different view. You have to be creative. But I think in small companies you have to be creative as well as a manager of a small company, not a big corporate, maybe. And in both communities, there are various people, very creative people, somebody who is less creative, somebody who is very pink-click and needs to have everything in order somehow. So I don't want to generalize this. I think there are good people on both sides. Various talents can be found there, and in principle, I think it's good to show that there is such an opportunity. That the spin-off is a regular choice. You can either stay in the research and follow up a research career. You can work for a company and follow up that career in small company or big company. Or a third choice is to start a spin-off. So once we will be in such a position that this will be a regular career path, we will find more and more people who will be interested and who will think about it. And I think it's actually happening. So it's something which is changing every day. It's about the talented individuals. So if you have just one person who is very talented, who decides to start to work for a spin-off company, then it could be enough to change something actually. Because at the end of the day, the best, let's say, the most successful spin-offs is the best advertisement for forming further spin-offs. So I think. Yeah, I don't want to say if it's better to work with people from industry or from research. I feel that the talented people who are open-minded, who are open to step out of the comfort zone, because this is actually what startup is. You have to really go for this challenge, and you are simply stepping in a new field. So those people can be found on both sides. It depends on their history. And actually, if you have a scientific background and start to work for a company right after the school, it's not nothing which is somehow it's not a disadvantage. It's advantage, of course, on one hand. If you have somebody who spent 8 years on 2 or 3 postdoc positions in US, Israel, or wherever in Europe, and then coming back to or even finding a new challenge, new spin-off company to work for. So all of these people are welcome. And if they are talented and hardworking, they have a good chance to be successful. And if they are able to select the right startup to work for, actually. So this is yeah. We are not in the situation as in the United States or as in Israel or in Czech Republic. We are not in the situation as it is in Germany. But the good let's say good news is that we are on a good path, and it will not take too many years to somehow start with the spin-offs as a regular, or to have here as a spin-off as a regular career path for young people.
Let's talk a little bit, I agree to what you say. Let's talk a little bit about the role of capital in this process. So a few years ago, did some research in the field and wondered why are so few scientists really interested in leaving the university, starting a startup. And my personal view was that one thing is missing in Europe, it's capital. So it's capital allocated towards deep tech. And also my opinion is that the problems we have today, think about climate change, think about life science, can only be solved by scientists who start startups, who turn the science into products. Just think about BioNTech, for example, with the mRNA vaccine. The founders are scientists. They got enough capital to move their science forward into products, and they brought it to market at the perfect right time to fight the pandemic. When I looked at the capital landscape here in Europe, I always got the answer that we have sufficient capital in Europe. And my personal conclusion was, yes, it's right, but it's not flowing towards DeepTech. So sorry to say so. It was around 2017, 18 when I started Life Science Get Together. And so I thought, what can I do? What can I do? And when I looked across the Great Pond, I saw, let's say, the glorious land of the United States with an abundance of capital for deep tech and for science. It's just look at the Nasdaq, which companies are listed, their valuations, how much money is flowing there. And I thought it would be very easy sell to motivate United States investors to invest in Europe and to move them over here because we have a lack of capital, in my opinion, and it's still there. So what I'm interested to hear from you is it just my perception that we could need more capital in the process? My personal opinion is with more capital, we have more opportunity to train more scientists and more people from the industry in that middle ground to gain more experience and to train also the next generation of scientists to form startups. And when we don't put capital into that field, the right talent will not evolve. How do you see it?
Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure if this is a really straightforward equation that more capital means better outcomes. I think it's important to, for biotech projects, in my point of view, it's good to have an investor who really understands what's going on there, who is not somehow panicking after very first bad results, which could happen very quickly, that the outcomes are not optimal or not as good as planned, and this is actually advantage for life sciences and the biotech field in comparison to applications or ICT or AI solutions. So which is much more binary. So either the competitor is making better app than you and you are lost or not, but in a biotech, the technology could have much more applications than just one. And if you are not on the optimal way, you can change the plan and go forward. And we already saw it several times that the project started in some direction and then changed the direction, and they were successful in completely different field or indication or different application of the technology. However, if the investor and the capital is not somehow able to understand this, then the project could be stopped much earlier than it's needed before it received the chance to be successful. So I think it's not only about the amount of the capital which is invested. Of course, we see how big difference is in European countries. In the state support or public support of establishment of spin-off companies and development of projects, pre-seed funding, seed funding, etc. The question is how effective this public investments really are. We see that this is the way how you can give a chance to succeed or to start to a lot of projects, and the best of them will be successful and will attract further private co-investors. So this is something where we see that there are many models around us of support of this investment, how to attract further co-investors. However, I think the most important point is that somehow also the institutions are able to say that they trust the project or not, somehow to find ethically the right way how all the stakeholders can participate and can benefit at the end of the project with some reasonable stake, let's say. So what we see in the US that the projects are overvaluated, that the tech transfer of a prestigious universities are willing to get too much, and then it doesn't make sense to invest. So I think we have a good chance now to find a better setup here. Maybe there is a lack of capital. Maybe not, because the question is how many high quality projects are around us now in Europe. Like in drug discovery, we found out that within the region there are really the top of the top projects. They are like individual projects in Europe, which exceptional quality, which should be invested, and those projects are in most cases able to find its investors. And then, of course, there are other where they need a better treatment to be better, or there is a higher risk. So, of course, to have a more capital, it will give a chance to more projects, and maybe some of them will be super successful. However, I think it's better to somehow try to attract smart investors to really develop further funds specialized in various fields. For example, I know from our German colleagues how the very successful funds, high-tech Gründe funds in Germany works. So it's a really good model. I'm not sure if they are really able to go really deep tech, if they have sufficient expertise, if maybe would be better to have more specialized high-tech Gründe fund for biotech, another for another field, another for another field, to really press on smart investments.
I think when I look at the early stage investments or investing in general, I completely agree to what you say, that smart capital helps tremendously to move things forward. When I think at investment in public companies, even if I do my due diligence and I do my research, which is very easy with public companies because there is so much information online and available these days, even then I cannot really say what technology and what team will be really successful in 10 years. And these are then those companies that create huge returns. When we look at Tesla, for example, I mean, Elon Musk, now he's the richest person on the planet with great visions, but until I think 2019, it was completely different. A lot of people said this company will fail. And there were only few investors like Cathie Wood from ARK Fund who said, no, I believe in that team. And I believe that Elon Musk has the potential to move several industries forward. When I look at the seed stage of the companies and when I look at the pitch decks I get on my table, I always wonder, say, okay, what's the A team here and what's the A technology? And then I compare it with listed companies and say, did I know that Tesla will be a big hit in 2021, making Elon Musk the richest person in 2021 with 300 billion net worth, personal net worth? Did I know that in 2010? And my answer is no. So when I look at capital and I say, okay, when we decide where to invest and which teams we want to move forward, it's really hard to tell how the talent will evolve and develop. And this makes me think that we just have to play statistics and put money on people where we feel that they might be able to evolve in great entrepreneurs, and then just sit and wait. How do you see the development of talent in such companies? How important is that to the industry here in Europe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand this is, and I fully agree that it's important to not to undervalue the human capital and the people who are in the companies, and the teams who are flexible enough, for example, to change the business plan in the right time and change something dramatically. And so in this perspective, this is really a question how the European ecosystem in biotech investment should be evolved. If you look in the deep tech and if we are looking at the technology itself, it's one of the approach where, in our point of view, it makes sense and it's really demanding. And if you have a ecosystem behind you, if you have bodies like INI Prague, the team who is behind you, even if the team of a spin-off is not successful in management of the project, you are able somehow to find a partner for the technology, or you have a good chance to sell it if the technology is okay. In future, of course, then some opportunities like Tesla or these maybe can miss you. That's something, or you can miss it. So this is something which is more for the other kind of investors who are investing more in people who are around us here as well. I think what is really missing here is a capitaler who is investing in this kind of deep tech stuff and people who are visionaries, who are really trying to change field or change the thinking of people in some specific area. And if I look around the investors in real estate or in other various traditional fields, it's of course much easier and maybe less risky. However, the upside is limited as well. So we hope that the INI Prague and INI Biotech Fund actually will show that there is another way as well, that it makes sense to try to invest in more demanding areas. And that's maybe it's not so much risky either if you select the right technology or if you select the right team, then in both cases you can be successful as an investor.
Yeah, I agree to what you said. If sometimes the fund setup are in a way that they can only support specific projects. I read an interesting article yesterday on the internet. It was posted by Sequoia Capital, and they announced the new venture fund model, where they said in the article they put all the funds in one big long-term fund. So money that goes into companies is meant to stay there for 1 to 2 decades. And their thesis was that they said, okay, I mean, if you want to tackle big problems in the world, very often teams need 10 to 20 years to move technology forward to a point where it really can turn into a product. And with a fund duration of 3, 4, 5 years, it's not really possible to do that. So they put a different angle on venture capital. How do you see such an approach?
Mm-hmm. Of course, this is just for information. INI Biotech Fund horizon is 10 to 13 years. So we have like 5 years investment period, and then divestment period, and some option for prolongation. So I feel this timing is okay for biotech projects. However, you are not able to accept and invest in really very, very early phase of a technology, which means once it's only in lab, there are no further results showing the potential of a technology. Of course, this is kind of limitation. On the other hand, if the timing is so generous, or if you have 20 years or more, yeah, I think it's really long time to keep the focus, and it's really significant period of human's life. So simply you are spending with the team quite important part of your life as a investor and as an investment fund. So I don't feel this is the right pressure on the focus on and on the performance of this. Of course, this is interesting approach. We see this is something which is used as well with the EIF. The horizons of some funds are longer than 10 years, 15 years or more. And the other investors, I think it's good to try. How to say if this works? Because after so many years, then you have the answer. If this makes sense after so many years, then I'm not sure if you have chance to react and change the system after 20 years. So you will get the answer if this makes sense after 25, 30 years, which is almost like complete active career of one person, almost like 30, 35 years. So it's really everything could change. Meanwhile, then even the money owners are waiting for the money so long that it's hard to evaluate if this is the right way to go or not. But I'm happy that this is something which people are trying, because it's kind of similar approach as for the impact funds, where they think about the impact more than the money, which we feel this makes sense, especially for this very game-changing technologies, where all the business plans written down on the paper doesn't make sense, because it's hard to me imagine that it could happen. So I'm happy that these kind of investors are here and trying to implement such investments. Of course, we decided to do it the way, as I mentioned, in the period of 10 to 13 years, which in life sciences and biotech it should be sufficient, I think.
You're right. I think there's also a need for different approaches on the market. I think the Sequoia approach will be beneficial for certain types of companies like Tesla, for example, or tackling climate change or space exploration, especially when it comes to resources. These are the huge problems. And there are also other opportunities on the market where other models are let's say, are more suitable, and where short-term duration is more beneficial than a long-term approach. So I think there is more variety on the market, which is a good thing. Let me open one last area of questions before we wrap it up. I really like how the ecosystem here in Europe developed and evolved. When I started in life science in 2006, there were a few corporations who put money on companies. Most investors came from Asia or the United States or the United Kingdom, here in continental Europe. And terms like startup didn't exist, or like incubation program, acceleration programs. And you also said that in Prague, even in Prague, IOCB Tech is a rather new entity when we talk about decades. So it's 10 years old, more or less. Then I&I is a young entity. Your fund recently closed. And there are more and more activities here in Europe. So when I think to Austria, we have ISD Cube, for example. We have in Germany the High-Tech Gründer Fund. We have also some successes where life science entrepreneurs made some money with licensing deals or selling their companies to the industry that in principle puts the money back to work into new endeavors and new companies. It's all great. My question to you is, are we done yet? Is that it? Is the European ecosystem perfect? Or do you see some further room for improvement where you say you would like to highlight it in a message to the community where you believe that the European ecosystem still needs to strengthen and puts a little bit of focus towards certain areas to make the entire ecosystem more successful?
So definitely, we are not done. It's not at the end. I think it's just at the beginning, and it's important from authorities, from local governments. There is an important challenge for them to really tune up the system of support and system of support of research the right way to make it really competitive in comparison to other bigger players who are especially from US and Asia, who are really growing and working hardly on development of such ecosystem. So there is a huge work in front of us, and it's important to still check and try to improve the system, the ecosystem which is growing here, and trying to find a way how the collaboration of all the players could really work. So I think this is just the beginning, and we are still pioneering in many fields, and this is first kind of fund here, and I hope we will be able to follow up with further funds to attract attention of bigger players, bigger financial world, some funds of like bigger funds who are investing in more traditional fields. And actually, biotech and life sciences is a traditional field. Actually, it's not recognized by the financial world as a traditional field. So, and as well, the innovations in this, this is something which is here for decades and decades. It's something which is very, very well known, and we are somehow starting to opening this field for investors and for entrepreneurs and etc. So I think we have a lot of work in front of us, and it's important to speak within the community and trying to find the best model, combine models, maybe try to introduce competitors who will fight for projects, who will be more effective in support of projects. So definitely we are not done, and I think it's important to decide if the complete European ecosystem is willing to focus on real deep tech project. If Europe is willing to produce original projects with extra added value and willing to stay competitive with the other big players. So this is some kind of challenge and some kind of fight which we can lose as well in Europe. So I think there is a need of huge support, and there is a need of finding of the right collaborative models which will be beneficial for scientists, for scientific institutions, for companies, and for investors, and maybe to decrease all the barriers or go over all the barriers which are somehow blocking boom in the startups. I think it's something has been already done. We are close to real start of decade of spin-offs in biotech. However, it's still fragile, and we have to somehow try to support this to grow and to be more robust and more standardized, and let's say more stable, because especially in Czech Republic or in Slovakia, in Poland, and other countries, support of tech transfer is not very stable. It's still changing. It's up and down. Tech transfer offices are build it and then close down and again build it, and so we have to find some stability for all sides, as well for the investors. So there is a need of change in legislation. There is a need of change in thinking of people, and somehow make it attractive for all the players who are there.
Yeah, I agree. Great points that you mentioned. When I have a finance background, so it resonated while you were speaking. And think back when I decided to go into life science, I think the complicated thing in life science and other scientific deep tech areas are that people on one hand need a deep understanding of science. And usually people with a financial background don't get training in that. And on the other hand, to evaluate whether a game-changing technology can turn into a product and also create sufficient returns for all parties involved needs a strong understanding of the financial markets, which is a science by itself, and it's ever changing, and it's not very easy to keep up with where the market is going and what motivates people. Bringing these two worlds together is a real challenge. And I believe it needs more funds like yours that help scientists to gain more insights into the financial world, but also on the other hand, train people with financial background in understanding science, which is, in my opinion, very complicated, because the game-changing technologies in science itself are not a program for a huge audience. I would say it's very narrow. Very often, mRNA vaccines, for example, 20 years ago, I believe there were only a handful of people who really understood what's going on in that space. But 10 years ago, for example, was the right time to put money into that. And explaining such complex technology to people with a financial background is very challenging. And I think I agree to what you're saying. So we can really keep up with that. And we have to spend more time educating both sides to talk with each other, which comes to a very interesting question of collaboration. How do you see the motivation for collaboration in Europe currently? You're working with a lot of organizations from all over the world. How do you see how the collaboration attitude evolved over the last 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, definitely there is a need to improve this mutual understanding of these two fields. I think it's getting better, especially thanks to successful exits of startups in this field, and thanks to the European Investment Fund and their activities, because they are doing a good job here in support of such activities. So I think it's on a good track. However, still, let's say, I think the situation is completely maybe different in UK or in maybe in Germany. I'm not really sure, but in Central European countries, it's not so evolved. And I think there is a need of searching for new models of collaboration, and maybe more interactions are needed, and more success stories together are needed. So definitely there is here a lot of work as well. We have to show success stories and good examples that it's something where it makes sense to collaborate. We have to show that this field is not as risky as it looks like. That if you have a good background and if you have a good expertise, you can select good and relatively safe projects. And however, especially thanks to this demanding knowledge, which is, or let's say, knowledge base for biotech. So you need years and years of education really to understand, as the mRNA vaccine has been mentioned. So it's not easy to explain why it's better and why it should be supported. So yeah, it's still a long way, I think. And the only way is to trying it again and again, and showing success stories and showing examples that it works, and trying to meet and discuss as much as possible together.
Yeah, I agree to what you say. Keep going, move things forward, regardless of what's happening in the world, and success comes in the end automatically. Just never give up. Jaromir, let me ask you one final question in this amazing conversation. I think it's very easy to imagine an endpoint of a technology and a company, and to paint in beautiful colors the success story that we all want to see when we invest into companies. Very often the first step is the hardest, taking the first step. And I would like to ask you one final question around this first step. So just imagine that the scientist approaches you and says, okay, I have now technology developed. I believe it can become a product. And he wants to take this first step. How would that first step look like, in your opinion?
So it's important. I think the very first step is important. It's important to be open for advice from people from the other fields. So I think the very first step is to speak about the things, about the ideas you have. It's a safe way, of course, after signature of non-disclosure agreement. Simply, the good beginning is to use the ecosystem which has been already developed. So if you work for some university, most probably there is some tech transfer office. So very first step is to speak with them, and very important is to be open for ideas from other people. I think this is the biggest issue, that very talented scientists think that they know everything, that they know all the detail, all the aspects which are important for a successful project, and are not so much open to change the thinking, and somehow open the mind to the other ideas. So first, it's important to speak with trustful and relevant people. Then think again, maybe change a bit your plan, or maybe start to be open for more ideas for maybe another application of your technology, and then to be open to work with people who are not so, let's say, have not so bigger understanding of the topic of your work. Try to explain the technology, try to speak about the advantages, try to think about the risks which are there and about the limitations, and be open for critics. I think this is very important, because what's happened very often to us is that the very first idea is not the best one. So scientists are coming back regularly to us with new and new ideas, and maybe the second or third will be much better, because they get some advice, they can get some let's say better targeting or ideas how the technology can be used better. So if you are open to the other people, and if you somehow respect that the others are having some expertise in other field and they can help you, then it's a very good step towards to have a successful spin-off in the future.
Great advice, Jaromir. Thank you very much for your words, for your time. And I wish you and your team all the best for the future. And I'm pretty sure you'll create nice success stories out of Prague.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was really great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Please share the podcast and make sure you've subscribed. Have a great day.